Hello, welcome to the I Am Everyone podcast. I am Tamika Young and I am a wife. Or I like to think I'm a best friend who just happens to be his wife. In this episode, I will be talking about being a wife. A title that comes after my title of a mother, but is just as important. I hope you enjoy. Let's get into it. So when did I become a wife? I became a wife. I got married in August of 2016 to my best friend of 8 years and on and off boyfriend of 6 years. Now, before I go into talking about my marriage and all the titles I have within it, I want to go back a little bit. So I never thought about, nor did I want to get married. If you haven't checked it out, you can go to my blog where I go more in depth about how I felt about marriage and why I never wanted to get married. But on here, I'm going to give you just like a little short version, right? So unlike being a mom, I never thought about, nor did I want to get married. Now, I always knew I wanted to be a mom and I knew I would be, but in knowing this, wanting to be married was never there. Like, never there. I knew that I didn't have to be married to be a mom, so it never mattered to me. But if you're thinking about it, isn't that the way they want us to think it's supposed to be? Anyway, conversation for another time. But growing up and being raised by a single mother and seeing other single mothers such as my aunts, who are all strong, independent women who raised their children with little to no help from the man that they created these children with, I guess subconsciously I felt that was life. That was the way that it was, and that's probably was going to be my future, right? So my mother was married and it ended. I didn't grow up seeing many successful relationships, yet alone marriages. So I just didn't see the point. And I didn't want to get married only to be divorced, right? So I remember years later, after having my first child, ending a relationship with my child's father, building a relationship with my father, and then ending my on and off again relationship with each other. You know, a lot of things happened in between, but it got to a point where my dad was like, you know, when was I going to get married, or if I even wanted to be married? So we had this conversation. And, you know, we talked about marriage. I told him I never wanted to get married and that I wasn't going to. I mean, let's be honest. You know, him and my mom didn't give me the best example of what a marriage should be or how to fight for a marriage or to even be in a relationship. Like there was no good examples of that for me, right? Do you know what this man said to me? He said, and I quote, "That's because you've never been in love." What, sir? I gave my daddy the craziest face and just laughed because that wasn't true. You know, you see, I had been in love and I had my heart broken repeatedly. At the time that we had this conversation, I was still in love, but also in pain. I was convinced marriage was just not in the cards for me. And I was okay with that. Fast forward past finding self-love, moving to a new city in hopes of starting a new life, getting back with my ex, and going to couple counseling to heal from the years of toxic behavior on both of our parts, I got married. It was a process. It was hard dealing with some of the things that needed to be dealt with within our relationship and within ourselves individually. But I can look back at it and say that it was worth it, knowing that this was the way it was supposed to be. So this year will be our 3-year anniversary, and I can honestly say thus far in life, this has been the happiest I've ever been. Now, you may have wondered why at the beginning of this episode I say that wife is a title that comes after mother, but is just as important. Well, I say this because I didn't do what some may say is a traditional way of life, as far as, you get married first and then you have the kids. That wasn't the way that my story played out. That's not my story. I became a mother before I became a wife. So, yes, I'm going to say mother wife and not wife mother, because I became a mother first. I was a mother for 8 years, 7, 8 years before I became a wife. Being a mother first doesn't take away from me being a wife. In fact, I think me being a good mother is one of the many reasons why my husband married me. He saw that I am a good mother. I'm dedicated to my child. I was dedicated to my child. I did any and everything to protect her and make sure that she was happy and to take care of her. And I think that's one of the many reasons why he chose to marry me. I could be wrong, but I doubt it. Now, let's get into the layers of a wife, right? So the definition, according to dictionary.com, of a wife is a married woman, especially we consider in relation to her partner in marriage, a woman. So I've never been the type to like the term wifely duties. I don't know, it's just something about the word duties and what it means. It's just, I don't really like it. So just like my many other umbrellas, under my woman umbrella, the wife umbrella holds many other things. Now, like I was saying in the beginning, I like to think that I am my husband's best friend, who also happens to be his wife, because I think that's important. As a wife, I am before all things his friend. We have always been friends, and within our marriage, we aim to stay friends. We were friends before we started dating, and I wanted to stay that way. I want us to always be friends first, because I'm going to always have my friend back. I'm going to always have fun with my friend. Like, we're friends first. And I believe that that's important in any relationship, to always stay friends, right? Let's see, now me being a friend, I think that's my biggest thing within being a wife. But again, I'm so much more. I am the accountant, because I handle the money and I pay the bills. I'm the event planner who plans birthday parties and trips and get together. I'm my husband's emotional support when needed. I would say that I am his partner in all things. Not only that, but I am his girlfriend. Yes, I am still his girlfriend. I'm sure I'm going to leave out a few things, but those are the ones that I can think of off the top of my head, right? So in being a wife, there's so many other things within that. Just like motherhood is so broad. It's one word, but has so many things within that. So many layers to it, right? So, is being a wife always perfect? Always good? Always peachy? No. There are times where I feel like my husband doesn't, with him being on the road, sometimes I feel like he doesn't understand some of the things that I go through at home. And I'm sure he feels I don't understand his feelings and always being on the road and wanting to be home. But we talk about it. There's even times when he irritates the crap out of me, as I'm sure I do him. But at the end of the day, we're able to talk about whatever problems we're having in order to resolve it. We're only We are only almost 3 years in, so I'm not saying that I'm a marriage expert, nor that I know everything when it comes to relationships. I can only speak on what I do know and the experience I've had within my relationship. All right. I will say that thus far, there is one thing for sure that I try to live by within my marriage, and that is communication. Having open communication in a relationship is important. Whether it's just your friends or, in any type of relationship, communication is important. But when it comes to living with someone and being in a marriage, I feel it is hella important. And plus, your spouse can't read your mind. You have to communicate what you need. And I had to realize that. I had to realize that my husband can't read my mind. And so sometimes if he calls and I'm irritated, he may think that I'm irritated or got attitude with him, but it's not him. It's the fact that these kids are driving me crazy. I got work to do, and maybe I've just had a bad day. But he doesn't know that unless I tell him that. Or, I don't know, if I need something like anything, if it's something that I need from our relationship within our marriage, if it's something that I need solely from him, I have to communicate that to him. That's important. I remember one of the things my husband said to me within our first year of marriage. He told me that if you're not mentally okay, I can't be okay. And I'm tearing up just thinking about it. But he told me that, and he has been showing me that ever since. He's been showing me that ever since. So in order for me to be able to be okay, I have to communicate with him when I'm not okay. I have to tell him these things. I have to tell him when I'm not okay, when I'm having a bad day. He has to know these things so that when I am feeling a way about whatever it is, he knows what it is, and he's not assuming that I'm pissed off or I'm mad at him or I got an attitude with him for whatever, like I can't take out my frustrations on him and then expect him to know how to make me feel better if I don't tell him what's wrong and what I need. So I would say communication is key. Now, I'm sure as the years go by, I will be adding more to this list. I will gain more knowledge on marriage and what being a quote unquote good wife is. Not coming from a background of seeing what a marriage is supposed to be. This whole thing is a learning experience, to be honest. I didn't come from a married household, but my husband did. And he is learning. He's learning what it is to be married, and we're figuring it out. And that's okay. This is a journey that I am on with my best friend, with someone that I love, who I'm in love with, and we're enjoying it. We don't have to have all the answers. We just have to enjoy the life and love each other and continue to be each other's friend and have communication. Talk to each other, even when you don't want to. That's all for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening. And remember, if you'd like to support me, be sure to share, subscribe, and leave a review. Also, check out my blog, everywomaniam.com. Subscribe to that as well. Check out all of my blog posts. I do go into depth about, like I said, why I Never Wanted to Get Married. It is a great read, so check that out. Let me know some tips you use to have a successful marriage. That's all for now, but I'll see you in the next episode of I Am Every Woman with Tamika Young.